Hello Internet, my name is Andrew Eder, and welcome to another episode of EDERtorials. Film Editorials. The topic of today's video is the new James Bond movie, Spectre. Spectre is directed by Sam Mendes and stars Daniel Craig as James Bond, who is investigating and hunting down a secret criminal and terrorist organization that he learns is called Spectre. The big mystery at the heart of the film is who is leading this secret organization? Who is he? What does he want? Why does he seem to have this personal connection with Bond? That's what Bond is trying to find out. In true James Bond fashion, this movie takes place all over the world, in Mexico City, in Rome, in Austria, in Tangiers, and of course London. Overall, I'd say this movie is okay. It's got some really strong positive points, but the negative points are pretty consistent throughout the entire film, and that brings it down a lot. I would say chief among those good points is Daniel Craig. He does a really good job of being an intense action hero, but he also has a softer side, which includes this really dry, subtle sense of humor, which I really enjoy. Ralph Fiennes and Ben Whishaw reprised their roles from Skyfall as M and Q, respectively. I thought they did a great job in that movie, and I think they do a good job in this movie as well. I really enjoy their takes on the characters. The leading lady of the film is Léa Seydoux. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I'm trying. And I thought she does a pretty good job. I like that her character is not really interested in the whole spy world. Like, she's kind of brought into it by accident almost. And then she has to just put up with it. Christoph Waltz is the villain of the film, and I don't want to say his name because for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, and those of you who might not know anything about Spectre and the James Bond world, I don't want to ruin the surprise, such as it is, so he's in it, and he's the bad guy. Another really good thing about this movie, something I really enjoyed, was the entire first scene. Pretty much everything in Mexico City is amazing. The film starts on this really long take of crowd shots, and then it follows Bond into a hotel, and then it does some other stuff, and it just keeps going, and I love that kind of stuff, and it's really well done. Then the action stuff does start, and there's a fight scene inside a helicopter, and you know it's a practical stunt, which makes it even cooler. Practical effects right now are a trend in Hollywood, where you see like an actual plane go through an actual building when it crashes, as a kind of a counterpoint to overuse of CGI. I don't have a problem with CGI, but the practical effects work is just really good and just really nice to see because it feels really authentic. To dial back from the compliments for just 1 second, the plane crashing through the building scene is kind of ridiculous because Bond's plan with the plane doesn't make sense to me. Why would you go after some cars in a plane? Like, what's the goal there? To crash the plane into the cars to stop them? That seems to put you in more risk than the people in the car. Anyway. But like I said, this movie isn't perfect. My two big complaints about this movie are kind of overarching themes that keep recurring throughout the film that are problems. First among these is that things happen, but they don't matter. Without giving anything away, there are lots of times when something happens to Bond, like he loses something, or even he finds something, he discovers something. It doesn't matter later. It matters like for that scene, and then once they change locations, doesn't make a difference anymore. Monica Bellucci's in this film, and she's supposed to be like a source of information for Bond. He meets her, does the whole James Bond romance thing, which is sudden and out of place. We'll get to that in a second. We never hear anything from her again. We have no idea what her fate is. She's just out of the movie. There's also another scene later in the film where Bond is getting tortured. We are told that this is going to lead to some very serious side effects, especially for someone who's supposed to be an action hero, and absolutely nothing comes of it. At all. Like, zero things happen. Like, I was almost expecting them to do something with it, and then I was disappointed by that very quickly. The other overarching problem I had with this movie was that things tend not to make a lot of sense. I've already mentioned Monica Bellucci's character, and her change of heart vis-a-vis Bond is really sudden and kinda random. When they first meet, she is cold to him. Like, really cold to him. Doesn't want anything to do with him. He takes like 2 steps closer to her, and suddenly she's all hot for him, and oh, James kind of stuff. I know it's supposed to happen like that in a Bond movie, but when it's happened before in Bond films, certainly under Daniel Craig's run, it makes kind of sense how it happens. Like, oh, they kind of like are flirting with each other and then they get together. This is like, I don't want anything to do with you, and now let's have sex. The big example of things not making sense, though, is the Watch. When the Watch first gets introduced, it's simple, and I really like that scene. It's probably the funniest line in the movie, it's a great bit, it matches Q's character, it matches their arc from the previous movie. It's a great scene. About an hour later, the Watch does something completely different. No explanation for it, there's no way Bond should know it does this thing that it does. Frankly, the fact that it changes its fundamental properties so much and just undercuts the other joke is a little insulting to the audience, and I'm really mad that the Watch changes its fundamental properties. When you watch the movie, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. If you've already seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about already, and I was really annoyed at that scene. And of course, this wouldn't be one of my videos about an action movie if I didn't talk about the villain's plan. And in this movie, I'm not sure if it doesn't make sense or if it just wasn't explained enough. It kind of feels like looking at a connected dots picture, except someone has connected most of the lines, but you're still not 100% sure what the full picture is supposed to be. Like there's stuff about spying on governments so that criminal empires know what to do, like to get around the cops, but then sometimes it feels like the gathering of this personal information is the goal in itself. And then there's like the B plot for the villains, which is just to get back at James, and that interconnects all the other Daniel Craig James Bond movies in a way that really doesn't make sense because we've already dealt with the problems that those other movies have brought up. Like, we should have moved on from those points, but now they're being brought up again? I'm not really sure what to make of the villain plot in this film, if it's confusing, if it doesn't make sense, if it's not explained enough. So I'd like to hear your thoughts, and we can have this conversation down below in the comments, maybe come to some fuller understanding. Either way, the villain plot didn't sit 100% right with me, so I'm considering that a negative as well. So overall, what did I think of this movie? Well, I'm gonna have to give Spectre 3 stars out of 5. Daniel Craig and the rest of the cast do a really good job, I feel, with their characters. The scene in Mexico City, specifically the first take, is awesome. Generally, the action is really strong, but there's also some good humor mixed in as well to keep the mood fairly light. On the negative side of things, a lot of the plot points don't matter later on in the film. There's a lot of things that happen in the film that just straight up don't make any sense. Specifically that scene with the watch. And then the villain's plan is hazy at best. Okay, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to let me know what you thought of the villain's plan down below in the comments. Please don't forget to like, favorite, share, subscribe, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.